I'm Russ Kickle for American Reef. On deck today, we've got a one-year update to Tim's SPS-dominated mixed reef. If you're looking to purchase some high-performance dye for your saltwater fish tank, head on over to AmericanReefHPD.com. That's AmericanReefHPD, as in highperformancediet.com. You know, it's funny. I labeled this video, There's Trouble in Paradise. I should have labeled it, There Was Trouble in Paradise, meaning over the past year, Tim had some major die-off of his SPS corals in that tank. And this video tells a story of the events that occurred and what he did to kind of solve those issues. I think you'll ultimately be surprised by his solution. I know I was. You know, also over this past year's time, Tim added a lot of stuff to this fish tank, meaning new skimmers, calcium reactors, media reactors, a frag tank, right? And it's really cool kind of seeing the things that he added, why he added them. And again, he'll talk about, you know, his decision-making process as well as what he thinks about the equipment that he did purchase. Now remember, if you're a small business owner, right, and you're proud of the goods and services that you have to offer, send me an email at AmericanReef@me.com. That's AmericanReef@me.com. Again, I'm looking for companies like your bulk reef supplies, your premium aquatics, right, your Tunsies, your ecosystems, right? Small, family-owned businesses that are good, honest people. Again, if you think you qualify, send me an email at AmericanReef.com. Now let's spit up that video of Tim's tank. So first of all, Tim, you look good, right?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. You too. Good seeing you.
Thanks for spending another one of your Sundays with us here.
Welcome, you're welcome.
And so, you and I have been talking a little bit back and forth. Actually, probably, what, 2 months after we taped that last one, you were kind of like, hey, we got big things in store, right?
Yeah.
What were those big things? What happened? What'd you do?
Oh, man, yeah. 2016, because we're at the end of it now, but it's been a big year. There's been a lot of changes on the tank. I mean, I did a lot of stuff starting in the springtime. I wrote down a list, so I'm going to refer to this list of what I did. Let's see. Added some frags. At the beginning of the year, towards February and stuff, I was having some problems. I was just having some STN and some RTN happening, and I couldn't figure it out. I even sent in a water test to Triton, and everything came back just fine. So I don't know what was going on. I tried to do more water changes. Didn't really help a whole lot. My nitrates and phosphates were really high. I mean, like in the 80s.
That's what I was going to say. Define high for me, right?
Yeah, in the 80s using the API test kit. And I even bought new test kits, and so it confirmed it there. They were so high. So I realized I had to really start focusing on the tank. And just having more fun with it. I felt like I was kind of stressed out about it. Right. Because a lot of things were dying. I removed a lot of big colonies that I had because they were just STN in. And, you know, I pulled them out, dipped them, nothing came off. There wasn't any, like, flatworms or red bugs or anything like that can kill them. So it was definitely something with the water quality that I kind of had to focus on. So
Right.
2016 did a lot of changes there to try and get things back on track.
So now here's a question. Did you notice, for example, with your STN, when things started happening, your sponges in your tank, did they still look healthy? Did you still have them kind of underneath your rock work and stuff like that?
Yeah, like the yellow sponges, everything still seemed okay. I've got yellow sponge, a black sponge in there like crazy. I was starting to think that maybe that the sponges, because I've got so much of it, maybe they're releasing something. I don't know. It's down to that biological, chemical level that I can't really test for.
Right.
Who knows? A lot of it's a mystery.
Right.
But I did change a few things. I added more flow. I replaced the Jabo WP40s for the small ones, or WP60s with the RTN20s.
Right.
So there's 5 of those in there. So the flow's really kicked up quite a bit.
And hold it, you did this while you were still having the issues to try to kind of prevent it?
Just to try and stem the tide, because I was like, man, I don't want to lose everything in here. But I did lose probably 3 or 4 colonies that I'd had for years. I mean, probably like 6 years. I've had these guys, or started them off with small frag, so kind of see those go. But, it is what it is, so you just try your best to minimize the damage. And a lot of the times, I think it just happens with tanks that hit a certain mark, maybe at the 4-year mark, 5-year mark. Something is depleted. Some kind of trace element in the water is depleted. The coral colors, some of the colors looked okay on 80% of the stuff, but then the colors were off on the other 20%. So it's really frustrating. I mean,
and we know it happens to everybody, right?
Yeah, it happens to Sanjay. I mean, it's happened to everybody before. I mean, you get these weird RTN events. A lot of the times it's a biological or a bacterial infection. A lot of people think that might be the case. I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, increased the flow. Started doing water changes. What else did I do? Added a new skimmer. Replaced my skimmer just recently. That just happened recently. Changed out my calcium reactor. I think you'll have videos of all that stuff. I sent an equipment portion down there of all the changes, because there's a lot that happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know when I just looked at the the videos when I was downloading them, I was kind of like, man, first of all, in the sump, I was like, woo, there's all kind of new stuff down in here, right?
Yeah, the sump, my ATB skimmer that I've had for, I think, 7 or 8 years, the pump finally died on it just a couple weeks ago, so I got an Aquamax cone skimmer from Reef to Land, and those guys are really good as far as helping me out and getting me a skimmer really quickly. And I just wanted to try something different. I could have gotten a new ATB skimmer pump, but I think it was just time for a change after 7 or 8 years. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's step back. So in the springtime is when you started losing some corals. You're increasing your flow, your water changes. When did it kind of like stem the bleeding?
Yeah, I think the bleeding kind of stopped in the fall. I mean, it bled out. Because summertime's bad, man. I'm not gonna lie. Summertime, I neglect the heck out of this thing. I'm outside playing beach volleyball and partying with friends a lot. So I kind of knew that was gonna happen. I kind of threw the Hail Mary at it in the springtime, and kind of let it run its course. And whatever survived. And it kind of balanced itself out. But then, since it's kind of cold out here now during the fall, I really focused on the tank a lot more. And I'd say within the last month, it has totally turned. Anything that was starting to RTN, it has stopped. And it's actually overgrowing the spots where where the tissue had died off. So whatever is happening now, hopefully I can continue it and keep it running its course. And it's a good feeling. I mean, everybody who has an STS tank knows this feeling. It's just like, holy crap, when things go bad, you just try everything in the book to try to stem it and stop it.
And it probably it hurts probably more than helps, right? But you can't do it but you can't stand still, right? It's like a train wreck. You got to try something.
You got to try something. And it's like, well, if you don't do something, I mean, things are just going to continue. And it's weird because some of the corals that were starting to RTN or STN, they got down to like a 1/2 inch nub, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're coming back. So it's just like, all right, you made it.
Right. And now you're strong and hardy. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm happy with it now. So, what else did I change? I changed out the canopy over the summertime. I thought maybe the canopy had something to do with it going bad, because it was a 15-year-old canopy that I had on here. The wood was rotten. I think I sent you pictures of it so you could see the inside of it, and it's like black. And I'm sure some of that stuff was falling into the tank and probably contaminating it. It was terrible, man. I was like, oh, I need to do something about that. And so I built a canopy for it. Same design, just painted it black on the outside and used the Kills paint water resistant stuff on the inside.
Okay, so when you did that, okay, did you take the old canopy off, or did you build it first, or how did you kind of do that?
Oh, I took that old one off because it was just falling apart. There was stuff like when I put the varnish on the inside of it years ago, it was like drying up and curling. There was like black mold on the inside, and I know some of that was falling into the tank. 'Cause when I was working on the tank, I'd reach over the top, and I'd see something kind of fall in. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what I just put in there. Something fell off from the inside of the canopy.
Right.
And it wasn't pretty. It was really rickety and rusted out, and molded out, and black stuff.
Right.
So I pulled the whole thing off. Tank didn't have light for a couple days. It's not a big deal.
Right.
That's fine during summertime. So.
Yeah. And now, what did you make the new canopy out of?
I just bought oak wood down at Home Depot. I'm not very good at carpentry, and I usually don't like to ask for help because I know everyone's time is very, very valuable with their family and friends and stuff. So I just kind of makeshifted it and did it the same way that I did the last one. I think it's like an inch wider. That's about it.
Right.
So it's pretty basic, and it seems to be holding up really well. So I'm going to do my best to kind of wipe down the inside every week or so, just to prevent the salt from building up. Even though I've put the Kills paint on there and the stuff that is supposed to be water resistant.
Right. And now, did you even do the Kills like underneath, on the edges? And
I did.
Okay.
I did, and also underneath it, what I did is I cut rubber strips. I cut rubber stripping. So it's like 3/4 inch wide. So I cut rubber strips all along the bottom. So the wood is not in contact with the acrylic at all.
Right.
And I split that to the bottom of it. So there's a little barrier there because I figure, and that's usually where the problems start with the water seeping up at the bottom, or just getting splashed and stuff like that. And it kind of creeps its way up.
Right.
So I did a little rubber stripping on there.
That's a good
kind of
idea.
proud of myself.
Yeah. That's a great idea, right?
Live and learn.
And yeah, exactly. And okay, so now, what time frame did that happen? In other words, was that summer time frame? Or
Yeah, that was during summertime when I did the canopy on there. So, and I'd say, what else did I do during the summertime? I also pulled off those Saran media blocks that I had in there. Those big brick. I'd been reading a few things about those supposedly leaching aluminum. But when I sent my water in for a test to try, it didn't really have any aluminum. So I don't know. They were kind of dissolving too over time. They were
breaking down.
really cheap. Yeah. And it's kind of like sandy stuff in the sump, and I try to keep the sump kind of clean. So
right.
I kind of just pulled those off, did some more water changes. Some of the stuff was kind of still happening. I just let it go.
Yeah. So, okay, so when you let it run its course, was it one of those things where like major events happened within, like, we'll say 2 to 3 weeks, or did it just drag on constantly where you were just like, how they say small, like the what do they call it, the straw on the camel's back, where slowly it just constantly ate at your soul every day, right?
Yeah, I would have that for probably 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
Some of the corals would STN, or they would some of them would start to RTN, because the difference is that the tissue just peels right off in front of you with the polyps intact.
Right.
And it's really frustrating because the coral looks physically healthy, and the polyps are intact, and the flesh just kind of peels off.
Right.
But it would stop. It was weird. It was like it would go, and then it would stop, and then it would kind of stabilize. And then other times it would pick back up. So it was just like, oh man, you just hope you have enough tissue on these colonies to survive it, to have them adapt or whatever, beat off or fend off the whatever's causing their problems there. Some of the smaller colonies, there wasn't enough tissue, so it wasn't able to adapt or whatever, and I lost the whole thing.
Right.
Some of the bigger ones that that are a foot tall or whatever, they would do that, and they would stop, and they would do it again, they would stop, and now everything seems to have stopped. I haven't seen anything coming off anymore.
Right.
Thank goodness. I got to knock on wood here.
Yeah, I refer to our previous conversation. Sometimes wood is just, it's a good precaution, right?
Yeah, it's superstitious. But
Yep, exactly. And okay, so when you added the flow, for example, did it do anything as far as increase it or decrease it, or everything? It was just kind of the same.
It kind of. I thought it would help out. I thought I would say, I would see it happening and see more flow, and I would think, okay, everything's going to be fine now, but it didn't. I mean, it's something systemic within the system,
right?
Something in the water chemistry, I'm guessing, or my lack of paying attention to things, or just my bio load. I mean, my fish have gotten huge,
right?
And again, my nitrates, even with doing all these big water changes, my nitrates were still in the 80s.
Well, were you still using that? What was the stuff you said? I want to say like you were using like no-pox and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, good call. I totally stopped doing that also.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped doing that because I don't know what happened. I just kind of lost interest in it. Mm-hmm. And so I stopped doing the no-pox for a while. And again, the nitrates shot up. I think I converted my old calcium reactor to a sulfur denitrator. I think I messaged you about that. Yeah. And that thing, I couldn't get it to run efficiently enough, so it wasn't even making a dent. I was thinking it should help with the nitrates, but the flow out of it, it wasn't making a dent in the nitrates. It's just a volume of water to deal with. And fish are just growing like crazy.
Right.
So,
unfortunately, like we talked last time, right? It's kind of that. It's that cycle where you feed them, right, so they grow, right, but then you're kind of like you're just putting more stuff in the tank, and then the more it's that you gotta, it's like a teeter-totter, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to starve your fish. I mean, that's like the worst thing to do. Right. I hate seeing people's tanks where they just give them a tiny pinch of food, and I'm like, that poor fish is starving.
Right, exactly. Although, okay, so I have to confess, right? So I've been on this freshwater planted tank kick, right? And so, we've got some videos with like Sanjay and Mike and their freshwater planted tanks, right? And so when I started my tank up, after the way that I did it, I'm trying to do this, so I'm not using CO2, right? And at the same time, though, I'm also trying not to use fertilizer. I used Miracle Mud at the bottom, right? So it's a big, thick base, so it should have all these nutrients, right? And the fish that I actually put in there, I said, I'm not feeding them, right? In other words, I have nothing on this tank except for mud, right? Miracle Mud and circulation, right? And it's been, I'll knock on some wood here.
Yeah, here we go.
So it's been probably, I'll say, I'm going on 6 weeks, and every plant that I put in there is growing nice. Every fish has not died, and I haven't fed them yet. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I didn't put a ton of fish. I only started off with like, 3 or 4 of the plecos, and, I had probably like, I'll say 6 or 7 of the little tetras, right, the little neons. And it's a small tank, it's only 25 gallon. But I just laughed because I'm kind of like, you hear, you have that cycle of you feed, then you need more filtration and everything else, and I don't have any filtration except flow, so I'm like, I'm not going to feed them. I bet you they find food, right? And everything's like full.
So it's something natural, though. They're getting their food from somewhere. So.
Exactly. And the plants are still growing. I mean, I don't have algae in there, right? The plecos are like doing their job. They're finding food that way, right? So, and it's got the, it actually has the, I think I put the Vertex lights on the LEDs. Remember the real nice bright fixture that they had? So it's getting blasted with light, right?
Yeah.
There's no green anywhere, so to speak, as far as algae growing on the walls or anything. And I'm kind of like, I'm like,
it's like you reach nirvana.
Exactly. I'm kind of like, I kind of like don't want to.
How long will it stay like that?
Exactly. Because I'm looking at it, and what I'm trying to do is I have a piece of driftwood that I actually planted, like some of the Anubias and stuff like that on top to make it look like, a tree is really what it's looking like, right? And it's funny because, when you look at this whole thing, I'm kind of like, wow, I'm just not going to touch it and see how this works, right? To see if somehow, like you said, I hit equilibrium and don't mess with it, right? So
it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, man. It's
right.
Great.
And it will go, to your point, right? We've talked about it now, so that means in about a month or two, you'll be I'll say, hey, Tim, remember I told you? Right.
Something's off kilter.
That's right. But I digress, sorry, to your point. You hate to, like, not feed the fish, right? I mean,
yeah, and I use your food. I buy your food from you all this time, and my fish love that stuff. So, and they're all fat and happy, and I mean, I've got flame wrasses and flame
Right.
angels in there that eat your food,
Right.
and blue-eyed cardinals. Everybody eats it.
Right, and it keeps the aggression down. That HPD stuff is just—it's just like it's perfect for again to they're fat, dumb, and happy. To your point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, as long as they're happy and not sick or anything. And,
Right.
and that Achilles tang is, I think, he's coming up on 8 years. So I've had him for like 8 years now. So he's a really good. They're hard to keep. A lot of people have a hard time keeping them, but he's been a great fish for a long time.
Well, it's funny. That was the first fish I was looking for because I remembered him from the last tank or the last videos, right? Because again, it was the Achilles is my favorite fish, just period, right? And I was looking at and then. So when you were looking for, when I was looking for the fish in the new videos, I'm like, oh man, right,
Yeah.
Beautiful, right? Oh,
He's there, yeah.
he is too. And so now you didn't have any fish issues while you were having kind of like the RTN and stuff, right?
No fish issues, no ick or anything like that. I didn't really add any new fish either, so everything was fine as far as the bio load. But they were growing. You can really see it on these tanks. These guys are meaty, so I know. With every inch that they put on or half an inch that they put on, I mean, there's probably a ton of waste that my filters couldn't keep up with.
Right. And so is that why you decided to add, I mean, when you went with the skimmer, your old skimmer broke, right? But like, were you looking at trying to get an upgraded one, that could basically
a little bit different, yeah. Just I ended up going with an Aquamax Cone 6.
Mm-hmm.
It's got 2 pumps on it, and boy, it seems to be working pretty good. I got to admit, and it's a little on the pricey side, but I mean, compared to when I bought this ATB large skimmer when it first hit the States, I think back then, like eight or 9 years ago, it was like $1,800.
Right.
So,
right.
And the Aquamax Cone 6 that I got was Reef to Land gave me a really good deal on it. It was like $900.
Right.
Good deal.
And now, what is it rated at?
Well, I emailed them a lot, kind of corresponded with them quite a bit, and I sent them a video and some pictures of my tank, and they said, yeah, that Cone 6 can easily handle your tank based on the SPS load and the bio load of the fish, things like that.
Got it.
So I ended up going that direction.
And now,
what else? Go ahead.
I was going to say, when you follow that line, okay, so you got the new skimmer, right? And then it looks like your calcium reactor looks new too, right?
Yeah. So I ended up getting a calcium reactor, and there wasn't anything really wrong with the old reactor other than the fact that it was 12 or 13 years old, and I just wanted to try something different.
Right.
It would plug up every once in a while, and it got a little finicky, but I just wanted to try something different before it changed. And so I went with the Aquamax calcium reactor back in March, and the thing's been a dream so far. Easy to tune. I just have to top off the media every once in a while. But I like the design of it with the recirculating CO2, and it's really quiet.
And now, how does it work as far as, do you have it, as far as tuning it in, like to the right pH, do you have that on a controller, or do you do it manually? What are you doing?
Come on, man, you know me. I don't even know what the pH is on this tank. So
there it
I
is.
just say out. And as long as the out's between 9 and 10, I'm happy.
Right.
It's not on a controller. I don't even have a pH controller or a monitor. I don't know what it is.
Right. It's so funny because when I put my calcium reactor back online, right, I was thinking of our conversation about, again, keeping that technology away from everything, right? And I did. I just turned it up and I measured alkalinity, right? And again, when it was too high, I start dropping it down, right, until
reduce your bubble rate or the flow.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it worked perfect.
There's a lot that happened over the fall too. This fall, I went to the MACNA, the big MACNA thing down in San Diego.
Right.
I think it was October, and I had a blast. That was my very first MACNA that I went to, and was just overwhelmed with all the equipment that was out there. New stuff, new high-tech stuff.
Right.
Had a blast. Got to see Sanjay and talk with him and have some drinks with some friends and stuff like that. And I got to meet Gary and Christine, who do that reef threads.
Right.
I got to talk to their show for a little bit. It was kind of cool.
Right.
Nice to see them. They're such nice people.
I know. Again, that, and think about what they do for the hobby, right?
Right.
Just having a conversation on a Sunday, right? How it educates everybody, right?
Everybody, and it's very entertaining. And I look forward to their shows, their threads every week to kind of listen to them.
Yeah, especially when you get in a car, right? I mean, like anywhere you travel anywhere, it's just perfect. You kind of look forward to it.
Yeah, kill an hour.
Yeah.
So at Magna, I met a guy named Steve Bashea, Bashea, and he had a cool line of skimmers and products, Steve Bashea. And so I got to talking with him, and I told him basically my problems, because my tank was kind of like doing okay back then. And I said, hey, look, my nitrates have been high forever. I showed him the video of my tank, and he suggested that I get one of his bioreactors. And it's that big red thing that you see in the video.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is that what the hell the big red thing is?
Yeah. I'd never heard of it. I'm a sucker. I just wanted to try something different. And I'm like, gosh, I've thrown everything out. I've tried everything in the past that I've wanted to try except the biopellets.
Right. And
he goes, you know what? Try this bioreactor. It should help you out. And it's been online now for 2 months now. So I got it after Reefapalooza, or not Reefapalooza, but after Magna.
Right.
And it's basically the same concept as those koi filters, where it's like the bacteria grows on these things and it constantly knocks them off too.
Right.
So this filter is the equivalent of about 300 pounds of live rock, but it's self-cleaning, and the bacteria is always self-rejuvenating.
Right.
So it's kind of cool, and I honestly, I think it's working. It's hard to measure some of these things, but it has been 2 months since it's been kicked on.
Right.
And I've done no-pox in the past. I've done things like that in the past, and I wasn't able to get the colors that I'm seeing now.
Right.
So it's hard to exactly say direct correlation of cause and effect with reef tanks and things like that, but something is popping. Something right now.
Right.
Tank booming.
Okay, so hold on. So what kind of media? Is it his own media in there?
I think it's just the standard meat. It's called K1 or Callium. It's these little round kind of chips, whatever.
Okay.
And just it's got a surface area for the bacteria to grow. And there's this air supply inside of it that constantly bubbles and churns them. Mm-hmm. So they're colliding into each other and get knocked off and then regrowing.
And now the effluent, or whatever you want to call the out, is that going into your skimmer, near your skimmer, or how's that?
He says it doesn't have to go near your skimmer at all. He says you can just put it anywhere in your sump.
Okay.
But the way I have the plumbing is that it goes into the same section of the skimmer, but I don't have it plumbed really close to the skimmer.
Right.
But honestly, I think it is working.
Right.
I haven't really changed a whole lot. I mean, I started dosing no-pox again, but I've done that in the past, and I never got the colors that I'm seeing now.
Right.
And so it has hit the 2-month mark. So
and I'm assuming your nitrates and phosphates.
Nitrates and phosphates are going down finally.
Right.
I think my nitrates just today were at 20, somewhere 20 to 30, and I'm totally happy with that. I can keep them at that level, or they're dropping a little bit more.
Right.
But man, the colors are just popping.
Right.
I had some friends over this weekend, and they hadn't seen the tank for a few months. I mean, Scott and Amy, they haven't been over here in a while, and they just went crazy. They were just like, wow, it is really looking different.
Right.
I thought it was in the peak earlier last year, but I think it's kind of peaked out again.
That's cool.
And so I think the bioreactor is helping.
And okay, so now that reactor is a big reactor, though, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, like, as far as the amount of media, was it kind of half that reactor filled up, 3/4 of it, or?
Yeah, it was about halfway filled up, maybe just a little bit over halfway. And it took a while for it to get to tumbling because it has to kind of equalize and get the buoyancy in the break-in period. There's like a break-in period of a couple weeks or a week.
Right.
And he said to add it slowly. It was halfway full, and when I started running it, I couldn't get it to tumble very well, so I basically started with less of it in there, took about half of it out, and just added a cup of it every day, just to get the tumbling effect. And now it runs really, really good.
Yeah, it looked good on the videos. I mean,
it's something I've never seen it before, and I saw it at a show, and I saw its craftsmanship, and I was just like, yeah, this guy's legit. And
Right.
Not a really big company either, so I like kind of supporting the smaller guys too.
Amen. Yes, that's exactly it. And okay, and for this size reactor, how much did you pay?
I think I got a good deal on it. It was like a show price of like $3 something, and I actually didn't even buy it from him directly. I bought it from Aquarium Specialties.
Okay.
Because they were having a discount at the show.
Right.
I bought it through them, but they shipped directly from him, or he builds directly for them.
Right. Exactly.
I think a total with a pump, because I had to buy a pump for it, and a really powerful air pump also. So a couple of additional things. So I think the total thing was like close to 500.
Right. Which when you're said and done, usually to me, any kind of reactor that we put in our tanks, that's usually that number of you're starting at to get something of at least decent quality.
Yes. Good quality is important, man. It's something you don't want to mess around with.
Right.
And that's the thing with the Aquamax, because I really like their calcium reactor, even though it seems to be like lesser quality. The plastic or the acrylic doesn't feel as thick as the original one. And even with the skimmer, it's working really good, but I'm kind of wondering how long it's going to last.
Right.
I'm kind of keeping my ATV skimmer. I still have it outside, and I can always just get another pump for that and be ready to go in case something goes wrong. Right.
No, I got like a section, right, of just, to your point, stuff that I'm like, man, I'm not going to throw this away because I know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, and it's good to have things on standby or ready to go, and you could fit them in there in a pinch. So it's not like you got to re-plumb everything. Some of these things are easy to drop in. Right.
And so okay, so now. As far as your filtration, did you add anything else to that kind of life support?
No, I would say the bioreactor I got first, and then I got that at Magna, and then a week before the next event that I went to was the Reefapalooza. That's when my skimmer broke, so I had to get that new skimmer in and get that dialed in before I left town, which was kind of nerving.
Yes, I was going to say you gave one of these, right?
Yeah, I had 1 week to get that skimmer kind of broken in before I flew out to Reefapalooza just a couple weeks ago, or a week ago. And that was kind of nerve-wracking, but I got it working.
and when you tuned it into the lower side of?
Yes, definitely. I did not want that overflooding, because the first couple days, man, that thing was doing some weird things. It looked fine, and then the next morning, the lid was kind of popping up and down. It's like, oh man, what did I do? It picked up something.
Right. So, it's so funny, right? Everybody, again, it's one of those things, everybody gets a new skimmer, it's the same thing, right?
Right before you got to leave town or something like that, or a calcium reactor. I couldn't imagine setting up a calcium reactor and having to fly out of town for work or something like that, without having it dialed in. It's pretty stuff.
Right, that's when you just don't do it. Forget it, that or you take vacation, one or the other, right? So. Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. When did you add the Frag tank? What time frame was that?
I think I added that in February. So it's plumbed directly into my sump. So I've got a pump from my sump that pumps water to it, and then it drains and goes back to the sump. So it's using the same water as the main system. So it's the same temperature and the same, alkalinity.
Right.
And it's got one of the same lights on it too.
That's what I was going to ask. So lightings are the same then, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't change anything out on the lighting. It was the same kind of LED bank that you've been have for.
Yeah, it was Ocean Revives.
Yep.
So one bad thing did happen in March. The plumbing that I used to feed the other tank over there, it came loose in the middle of the night. It was like 2 a.m. and I heard splashing, like a waterfall in my house.
Whoa!
2 a.m. in the morning. The tubing had come out of the return pump that I pumped the water to, and it was hitting the underside of my aquarium stand, and it just dumped about 20 gallons of salt water onto our floor. It was scary. Oh my gosh.
Well, so was it just a clamp came loose or some?
It was my makeshift. Man, here's the thing. Sometimes you just are in a hurry to get things done, and once they're working, you never circle back and you do them right.
Yes.
Make them right, the tubing and all that.
Yep.
And it just I had vinyl tubing that I wedged into another piece of vinyl tubing to get the fit right, and eventually it kind of worked itself loose.
Right. I know. Yeah, it's so funny because I know exactly what you're saying, because you'll get something that doesn't quite fit the way it should, and
Right.
but if you'll slide it and you're like, hey, this will work until I go out Monday, and
Oh man, it had been running good for like 2 weeks, and all of a sudden, 2 a.m. in the morning, I hear this splashing sound, and I'm like, and it woke me up. I'm like, oh man, it sounds like my pond waterfall in my house.
Right.
And I walk out, and there's like water everywhere, and it's splashing, and I couldn't even my brain could not process at 2 in the morning what was going on.
Right.
And I think I sent you a picture of the surge protector that caught on fire.
Right.
Oh man.
Right.
Okay, so lesson learned. After that moment, I realized I probably could have died.
Sure.
Man,
walking down, right?
Yeah. It was really scary after that. So I installed I think the last time you and I talked about GFCIs and how I didn't have one on the tank. I do now.
Yes.
So it's a 20 amp GFCIs that are installed now. After that lesson, I realized that could have been it. I mean, I was standing in water and that thing was smoking. I looked and I realized, I'm like, holy crap, I might have a few seconds to get that unplugged.
Right.
And it didn't trip because it was just catching on fire. It was smoking like crazy.
Right. Yeah, and again, it's nature of the beast, right? And actually, we were doing some filming over Mike's place, right? And it's similar thing, meaning not the hose cam moves, but basically, a light fell into water, right? Luckily, beforehand, though, right, he had kicked the breaker off, kind of thing, so he knew, but. He went in initial reaction, he grabbed it, pulled it out, and then after he pulled it out, it was like, ooh, was the electricity off? What did I just do, right? And then it was like, oh, yeah, shut it off. Whew. But, to your point, things like that always happen around it, right?
Yeah, it was scary. It was a wake-up call. And that was probably one of the reasons why I kind of got pissed at the tank myself. You kind of beat yourself up after.
Right.
And, that was a long night. And it shot back in 2 in the morning. My neighbors could probably hear this big old shot back going. My family was pissed off.
Right.
But, oh, man. It's tough.
And now, okay, other than water in the house, the tank did okay?
Yeah, the tank was fine because all the water was coming from the bottom of the tank, the sump, because that return pipe that was feeding the other tank was just shooting water up. But it was amazing. I'm like, wow, it must have been running for a good 15 or 20 minutes before I got to it.
Good thing you were.
There was at least 20 gallons that I shot backed up.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah. Good thing you were home.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's totally. So.
Right. Yeah, that's, I often complain about like the Neptune Apex and all that other kind of stuff. But man, they have those water sensors that send you alarms to your, phone when, it senses water. I'm like, I've probably got 3 or 4 of those emails of it was a drip or whatever happened, right?
Yeah, and I ended up buying some of those water. I don't have an Apex or anything, but I bought these water sensors that just beep or something if they come in contact.
Yeah.
So I bought like 4 or 5 of them and stuck a few around the tank, stuck one underneath the Frag tank that I have,
right.
Just in case it happens again. I'll get woken up sooner or something like that.
Yep.
Somebody.
Right, exactly. And they're like $15 at Lowe's or Home Depot, right? So.
Lesson learned. I think it's good to have those.
Right. Now, why did you plumb in the, that frag tank anyway? Just because you wanted to start, doing more frags, or because I know you always sell frags too. So what's the?
That was kind of the main reason. There was a couple of reasons. The first reason was during my daughter's volleyball season, when I head to the Bay Area, I usually get a lot of sales. I could usually bring down like 40 corals.
Right.
And so I think it's a good place where I can just like pre-frag them, stage them over there, so it's easy to grab them and bag them up.
Right.
Just keeping them in the big display tank.
Right.
Another reason that it's really worked out really well is that as these guys are filling in the display tank, when I'm in there working and moving rock around, sometimes just a big branch will break off. I've broken off like 6-inch, 7-inch branches from some of these corals. And instead of mucking around with it in the display tank and trying to wedge it back in there or trying to re-glue it somewhere, I'll just toss it in there.
Right.
So it's easy just to keep stuff alive.
Right, exactly. Makes perfect sense too, right? Because I'll take that magnet on one of my tanks and whack, there it goes, right? Because
a huge branch comes off, or
right.
And then sometimes it's just like hard enough to get it out of the bit of your display tank, and you don't want to mess with it anymore. So I just put it in there.
Right. So you set that up to do that now, right? Now, is that baby full now, or what's it looking like?
It's pretty sparse right now. I haven't been selling a whole lot. I kind of cut back on that during the fall, and I didn't really want to sell anything if the tank's kind of in bad condition.
Sure.
If stuff is dying, I definitely don't want to sell stuff. So
Sure.
everything's coming back now. So I'll probably pick it up. For volleyball season starts in January. I start heading down to the Bay Area and doing some traveling to tournaments.
Right.
And by then, I figure everything will be on the mend, and it's doing really good right now. That's the thing.
Right.
Everything's popping and growing.
Right. And again, we're knocking on wood.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. Ready for the big push.
That's right. Okay, so just for future reference, if somebody's watching this video and they want some of those corals 2 months down the road when you're, ready to get rid of them, how are they going to get a hold of you?
Jeez. I'm out there on Facebook.
Right.
Plaza. You can find me on some of the bigger boards like Reef Central, and I think Reef to Reef.
Right.
TFP out there. So they can just message me that way if they want to try a pack or something like that.
Yeah. And okay, so now as far as like any other changes you made, had a frag tank, basically your canopy, you got a new reactor, new skimmer, new calcium.
There's not much left.
Do you still use GFO?
Yeah, just a little bit. I've noticed that since I've been using the no-pox, that has kind of helped with the phosphates also.
Mm-hmm.
So my phosphates are running at 0.03 using the old school hand color.
Right.
Yeah, that's about it. I think if anything changes, I was kind of thinking about the biopellets, going that route, but I think I'm just going to stick with this no-pox thing for a while and just let it. Hopefully I can stay motivated enough to keep it down.
Right.
But, yeah, the new skimmer seems to be pulling out the stuff, the bacteria that it consumed really well. So.
And are you still doing a lot of water changes, or did you cut back on that?
I kind of cut back on that too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's something happening. I don't know if it's like everything is kind of leveling off now, or if that bioreactor is doing some magical stuff behind the scenes. But I was, during the Hail Mary times, I was changing 90 gallons once a week.
Right.
A lot of salt.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so now I'm doing the 90 gallons every 2 weeks.
Right.
And sometimes I'll even let it go longer now because it's like everything is kind of dialed in.
Right.
So.
And that's one thing I've noticed as well. Sometimes, because on the one tank that I've got, I'll do like 2 to 3 gallon changes every day. Right. And so for an experiment one time, what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to just stop and I'm going to do every other day. Right. And then I noticed actually when I went to every other week, in other words, I would do 2 gallons a day for a week and then stop for a week. And then 2 gallons a day for a week and stop for a week kind of thing. My colors actually just changed into a much deeper, right? Hard to explain, right? But I was like, and I knew I didn't change anything else. I'm going to change something, right? But I was kind of like, so anyway, I'm doing that. I did that for 6 months, right? And now I'm going to go back to the 6 months of regular and see if they kind of doll up a little bit. And see if, who knows, right? If that does something.
And you can kind of, when you do that, it gives you the option to kind of make the correlation of colors and frequency of water changes and the effects and things like that.
Right, exactly. And in the one tank I have, I've got this one Monty that is so sensitive. Most Monties aren't, right? You're pretty hardy. Mm-hmm. I've got this one where, again, it is just, I swear, as soon as it gets beautiful, it's only going to stay that way for about a month, and then it's going to get, something's going to happen, and I'm going to end up with a thumbnail again, right?
Yeah, elation to deflation.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? Oh, man. So either way, I'm going to see how that at least works through this. So back to your tank, though. So you've got that. Is there anything up on the agenda, right? In other words, for I mean, I know we're going to assume that things are going to go smoothly for the next 2 months, and to your point, you are like back in business, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, everything's peaking. I am not going to change anything. Honestly, I think I usually don't even make changes this big. I mean, all my equipment's like super old, so it's kind of been a renovation or a remodel of all the equipment, basically.
Right.
So I think I'm good, man. I'm not going to try anything else. Just kind of let this go and see how it acts.
Let it go. Grow some corals out. Fill up the small frag tank.
Yeah. If anything, I've added some more fish. I mean, we just had Black Friday, and I went to one of my fish stores, and I bought 3 of these pipefish. I'll send you a picture of them or a little video. And they were just different.
The ones that are burying in the ground?
No. They're yellow banded pipefish.
Okay.
So they're really skinny and really like yellow and these like brown stripes and a red tail.
Right.
And I had never seen those before, and it's just something different. So I'm just like, all right, I'll get 3 of them.
Right.
And hopefully, I have enough pods and microfauna in my tank to have them survive. They've only been in here for I think 3 days now, and it's kind of cool. They're just different. I'll shoot you some.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah, because the ones that I saw that I thought were pipefish anyway, they actually buried themselves in the sand and they would come up, right? Not like a wrasse, but they almost like a rooted plant, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, they kind of poke their heads out. And
right.
I've seen those.
Right, exactly.
These ones are a little bit different, but they're cool.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, how are you going to do that? You got to bare bottom, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The guy told me they'll be fine in my tank. A lot of people have seen my tank and they know it, and they know it doesn't have sand. And I asked him, would these be okay without sand? And Frank was a guy at AquaWorks Aquarium, and he said that they'd be fine as long as I have enough food in there. So I got to make sure. I mean, the tank is now 5 years old, so I'm assuming there's like pods and stuff like that. When I move rocks around, or if I pick up a chalice and move it around, there's like all kinds of stuff that comes scurrying out from underneath it. So I'm like, okay, there's microfauna in there.
Right.
But it's down there.
So now, when you're moving rocks around, right? Are you loosening up detritus underneath these things that you're like, how did that get there with all this circulation?
Yeah, stuff just builds up.
Right.
It builds up in certain areas. Just the parameters of the flow and the flow patterns. It happens. There's going to be spots where it just accumulates. And one more thing. I bought a big old water pump. It's like a Laguna pond pump. And that thing pumps a ton of water. And I bought that and 3/4-inch tubing, vinyl tubing. So I can change 90 gallons I can do a 90-gallon water change in less than 30 minutes.
I know exactly what you're talking. Yes.
Pumping it out and pumping it in, less than 30 minutes.
And that's, again, when you do 90 gallons, you know how long it freaking takes.
Yeah.
Right?
Because before I was using like a Mag 1800 with half-inch diameter tubing, or if it was even that, it might have been like 3/8 inch.
Right.
And it just the flow, it can only get so much flow through that thing, and it would take forever, over an hour to do it. And now 30 minutes tops. I can do a water change.
That's perfect, right?
Little things to make yourself, make your life easier for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Now, does the pump have it so you can, it's got a lot of head pressure, meaning it can go whatever 10, 15 feet high, so you can keep it down wherever, and you don't have to worry about it?
I just sink that bad boy. I get the tubing hooked up to it. I just drop it at the bottom of the tank.
Yep.
And crank it on and pump the water directly into the toilet. So I've got my markers on the side of the tank that show me where my water levels are at. So I pump out 90 gallons and then take it out and drop it in the garage where I make up my water and pump 90 gallons back in.
Right.
Really fast.
Right.
So I think that helps the corals too, because they're not exposed to air so much.
Right. You would think, right?
Yeah. And the way the reef is now, and when I pump that 90 gallons out, these guys are exposed. A lot of these corals, they're pretty exposed. You get that funny smell. It's kind of that funky smell there.
Right.
Not the most pleasant thing.
Well, and it's funny because depending on who you talk to, right? Some people, that smell is how they know whether the coral is healthy or something's not up with it. Something's going right with the coral. And I have yet to acquire that talent, right? But it's really kind of cool where they'll take and they'll just smell the coral and don't want it.
Yep. That is true. That is so true. There's a certain smell. It's a very pungent, musty smell that a sick acro has, and you don't want it.
Right.
It's not quite death, but there's something off about it versus a really healthy one. You smell it, and it's got an odor to it, but it's not this pungent, strong smell. I've done that before too.
Right.
It's like, wow, someone else does it too. Better than me.
Good deal. That's right.
Yeah.
And so now, so you're doing the 90-gallon water changes in 30 minutes every 2-ish weeks or something like that, right? And now you're just letting skimmer's doing its thing, the reactor's kind of broken in and everything else, right? So I guess to that point though, it sounds like what we should do though is literally come back and kind of revisit in a few months just to say, is it still down? Right. Is it up? If it, what's going on with it, right?
Right. Am I still getting lucky? Are things still thriving, or has it reached the peak and now it's like time to decline?
Right. Exactly.
We'll check back in like 6 months or something like that.
Right. And actually, we can start with the first question. I'll say, is your frag tank loaded or no? Right? Because if it's, because if it's loaded, then that means things are good, right? Or no, I guess not. If it's unloaded or if it's empty, right? Maybe you already, it's going too good for you, right?
Sold everything off.
That's right. The heck with the IT job, right?
I wish.
Yeah, you and me both, but I don't think it's in the cards, right? Okay, so closing remarks, right? Again, somebody's that's in your shoes, right? That they had the epitome of their tank that they loved, right? And they slowly start to see it decline, right? Having lived through this, and this is not the first rodeo for you, so to speak, right? What's your words of wisdom?
I would say it would be that lazy ass reefer syndrome, and really, I do think, in addition to that, there's something that's happening with the trace elements. After certain years, I think over time something is getting depleted. So the bigger water changes might help, or adding some kind of trace elements might help also. Right. I don't know. One other thing, I started dosing because I had a hunch that it might be the trace element thing. The Red Sea coral colors.
Yes.
A, B, and D or something like that. And I don't even add much. It's like 15 mils twice a week. So it doesn't seem like it's a lot, but that might be helping too. But before I started doing that, the colors were coming back. Right. The bioreactor. So it's hard to say, man. It really is. But I do think trace elements in this bioreactor has kind of helped kind of level things off. Right.
Yeah, it'd be like, to me, I always wanted to talk to somebody who was deep into like the different kind of bacterias, right?
Yeah.
To me, that's where my personal belief of where things kind of go good or go bad, right?
Right. At that level, at that microscopic level, what I can't test for, it's like, oh man, I don't know what's in there.
Right. Exactly. Right. But somebody who could say, okay, well, you have these kind of bacterias, that's a good sign. These kind of bacterias, that's a bad sign, right?
Wouldn't that be great if someone can do that? I mean,
right. Right, exactly.
It's down to that level, though.
It's funny because one of my children, right, at university kind of levels, they're into the bacteria and stuff like that, and they're talking, oh yeah, because that's why I'll be like, hey, can you do this? And they're like, do you know how many bacteria exist out there, right? And it just so happens that there's way too many, right? To at least, I think for our hobby, for somebody who's a hobbyist per se versus somebody who does it for a living, right, to actually get involved to kind of figure out which ones are good or bad.
Yeah. I know Dr. Tim. I met him down at Reefapalooza and at MACA, and he's really good with that stuff.
Right, exactly, because you're always seeing it. Right.
And I've used his waste away when I noticed a bunch of algae or even cyano at one point, and it kind of comes and goes. And that kind of helped with the cyanobacteria. And now,
did you ever use any of this bacteria stuff when you were having kind of the issues, like your RTN?
Yeah, I was, but it didn't help. I mean, we were still having the issues. Kind of helped cyano, but the issues were still there. So.
Good deal. Okay, so then your parting words at that point, again, it sounds like, I don't know, pray, right?
Honestly, yeah. I wish I knew. I wish I could give everyone great advice, but holy crap, it is trial and error. Right. It's just it's kind of like recognizing that this is going to happen. I don't think any tank has always been running at 100% efficiency for 5 years. I mean, if it did, then the corals are freaking 6 feet tall. I mean, it's just, if it was easy, everyone would have these aquariums with corals that are huge. And you just don't see it. So it's always something that kind of comes up, and just be ready for the battle.
Okay, so to that point, how are you ready, right? Like, I know, between Sanjay and Mike and those guys, they'll give other reefers their corals. That way, when it does happen to them, they get, corals back or frags of the corals. So at least they have,
Yeah, and that's the good thing, because when the corals are healthy, like right now or within the next few months, when everything's healthy and I'm making frags, I know it's backed up out there.
Right.
But I would never give, like, if my coral tank was going, if my corals weren't healthy and they were going downhill, I would never give it to somebody and say, hey, can you back it up? Because I wouldn't want to introduce something to them.
Right, exactly.
That would, ultimately wipe out their stuff. I mean, I feel awful about that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so when it's going good, though, that's when you do it. When it's going good, start.
Everything's growing great, that's fine. I think that's a fine time to sell frags and propagate your stuff and get it out there and get it backed up. But, when my tank was declining, I was not doing anything. I was just going to ride it out and kind of bite the bullet and suck it up.
Right. Yeah. That's what everybody else does, right? I mean, because there's no magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Well, I guess for this particular episode, again, I want to appreciate you spending the time, and I'm sure others do too. And they know how to get a hold of you, even just to say hi or, hey, Tim, how did you? Right?
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Perfect. So we'll do it that way, and then what we'll do is we'll set up another one around 6 months, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, we'll see how things are going by then.
That's right. It's going to be either or.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for spending the time, sir.